Alright, beautiful people, welcome to the first part in this video series, how to get straight A's at university. Although we have a disclaimer, this applies specifically for UWI because UWI is the only university I've been to, and mostly for first year courses because that's where I did most of my courses in. If I want to generalize this outside of just medicine. So the question on our minds is a lot of people have been asking me from time to time, how do I get those good grades? How do I get my transcript to look like this? Ignore the cell bio part because me and bio are never friends. So, what's the secret? What's the solution? First things first, don't believe everything you see online. It's easy to fake this with Microsoft Paint or even Photoshop. But that's actually my transcript. That's actually the grades I got in those courses. And you can do it too. So, a little background about me and why I'm able to tell you about this. I am an MBBS graduate, so I did medicine. Never did CAPE, and because of that, I ended up spending 2 years at UWI. Didn't have to spend 2 years, but I did fail out the first year. So I went back, did the second year, and things went a bit better for me that time. I also did a bunch of courses outside of SciTech where I was trying to transfer to medicine. So I did Spanish, Econ, Accounts, ComSci, for fun, because, why not? And all in all, I've been at UWI for some 8 years, and that's why I think I'm qualified, to tell you about getting A's in a variety of courses. Other things about me, I'm admitting up front my bias. I actually like learning. I liked going to university, and I would just sit in random people's classes and learn things because it was fun. So some of the stuff I'm telling you may very well not apply to you at all, but if I so, it just means you'll have to work that much harder because some of the things won't come as naturally to you. You can see what else is on the slide. So, once again, I'm hoping that this can apply to most people, but I have to admit my own biases. I actually liked learning. I remember certain things more easily. I have a particular logical mind that tends to understand certain concepts more easily. Some of the things I'm saying, it will sound easier than it really is because it was easier for me. This may not work perfectly for you, but I think the principles are well enough that they can be adjusted to apply to whatever situation you're in. Yeah. Also, some of the things I'm saying might sound extreme, and the truth is most people don't do this. But guess what? Most people don't get straight A's. And in fact, many of the people who do get straight A's don't do this either. But you know what's the difference? Enough of them bright. When I went to medicine, enough of those people are savants. Like regular Joes, not necessarily like me, because I can't claim to be a regular Joe anymore. But yeah, we have to work twice as hard to get the results that they're getting. So bear that in mind. If you weren't the straight A student in high school, you're probably not going to be the straight A student now in university. So, take note. All right, so first things first, we say you need to find your why. So you need to have that guiding star, a motivating factor, a reason for why you're trying to get the straight A's in the first place, and especially even why you're trying to pursue this degree. So it could be because you want to get scholarships, you want to actually be able to afford university because your parents then broke, like mine were. And that's a great reason. My father straight up told me if I don't get no scholarship for going to medicine, I'm going to find one next degree for do, or find one work somewhere else. So all the onus was on me to get those grades. Other persons might do it because, they want to join a nice honor society, get to wear the uniform like what I did at Taylor Hall, get access to the meetings, the free food, get your face put up on a wall, things like that. Get to be on Dean's list, And there may be various other reasons. Some of them are better than others. But the key thing is you need to have a strong reason that can keep you up at night. Yeah? Something that can push you to go forward when you feel like you're tired of this, you're sick of this, you want to burn down UWI, as is the plight of many, many, many university students. You need something to keep you going. So, second step, we need to prepare. There's a number of things under preparation. I start the first one with you need to know yourself. So, with a lot of persons starting university, they finish high school, finish CSEC, finish CAPE and so on, and them scrape through certain things. Them get by, them get lucky with some past papers somewhere here, there, or them know say, boy, they were kind of weak in this subject, and they just hope everything sorts itself out in university. If chemistry was your weakness in high school and you couldn't work out titration, it's going to be even harder in university. Because when you come to UWI, they're expecting that you learnt and understood those concepts well, and you're now ready to take on the more difficult concepts, building on those foundations. So you need to work on those weak points. For me in particular, that was mathematics. So I remember I had to ask my friend to explain to me how to like multiply fractions one time, because the multiplying and the adding fractions, I just wasn't getting it, and I was getting lost in my calculus classes because I had that deficiency from way back in high school. I used to hate the maths. Now I love it, you know? I was transformed. So you need to find out what are your weak subjects, what are the weak areas in those subjects, and you need to brush up on that. For a lot of other people, it's the English and the grammar. You also need to work on that because you're going to be doing a lot of presentations, a lot of typing up assignments, a lot of things to be submitted online, and you need to work on your English too, because that's what you're going to present everything in. So another thing that I recommend doing, similar thing, pick the hardest subject for you and try to see what it's gonna be like in the semester to come. I'll talk about this a little later, but if you know, say it's chemistry is the hardest thing for you, you get the syllabus, find out what it's like, and see if you can do a little one video here and there on titration, a little Google search here and start understanding the periodic table, a little thing here and there with the organic chemistry. And what you're doing is familiarizing yourself with certain ideas so that that course, that subject that's already hard for you, won't seem as difficult when you start it. You can hit the ground running, as them say. Another thing to do with this time, so ideally this should be taking place before you start university. Ideally in the summer, which is right now. You should learn how you learn best. Now that has a number of things. You should find out, do I learn best with somebody else explaining things to me? Do I need to see it for myself? Can I listen to it, for example, in a recording? You know, do I need to be that hands-on sort of person? Another aspect of this is learning your ideal note-taking style. So like me, I type up my notes because one, it's faster. Two, my handwriting is terrible, so I can actually read my notes when I'm done. For other people, they have to write out their notes. Things like that. And the last thing I think is good as well in knowing yourself is getting into the right mindset where you can try to make whatever it is that you're interested in become fun for you. Don't view it as this huge obstacle, this gigantic task that's foreboding and, just seems like something scary. Try and make it interesting because they are interesting. Again, I'm biased because I like a lot of different subjects. I like learning things in general. But you can look up on YouTube some videos, read some things about the subject you're going to be doing, find out the practical applications in real life, find some people on YouTube who are excited to talk about the subject. Like this guy, Eddie Wu, he's amazing. YouTube maths teacher from Australia. He explains things in a way that his little high school students get, that us in college wish somebody had explained it to us. And he's so excited about it too. When you reach UE, there's a Dr. Kirk Morgan who is just like that with his maths. It's beautiful. He completely changed my perspective on math. No, I love it. You can find other things. Some people watching the Grey's Anatomy videos to get themselves inspired about medicine. Things like that. Chemistry, biology, physics, whatever it is. Find a way to get inspired about it. Find a way to make it interesting and applicable to your life. Because a lot of times when they're teaching us these things, they teach it to us in abstraction. They teach you the theory, and you wonder to yourself, how is this useful? How does this impact my life? Why do I need to know the area of this thing, the trigonometry here? Like, what difference does this make? Find ways to make it interesting. So, the second part of knowing yourself. This was coming back from the previous question. When do you learn best? Are you a morning person or are you the 2 o'clock in the night basically type of person? When is the best time for you to study? And also where? The when and the where come together because at different points in the day you'll be at different places. So can you actually study well at home? With your siblings around? With your parents saying that you need to go to certain chores? With a noisy environment like what I had, where party did I keep across the road every night and music a blast and my window them a shake? You can tell I had to stay back at the library for a lot of things because home was not the greatest environment to study for me. You should learn what these things are from early so that when you're in university, you're not still trying to figure out how things work. A lot of persons take the first week to basically not know what they're doing and figure out just where to go to class. Then the next 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks, figuring out how they study, how to get in the groove of things, what to expect, especially in SciTech, failing the first in-course test because you're still trying to get used to things, Try and figure out some of those things beforehand. Because why? You're trying to get the straight A's. Cool. Another thing to do, find those things that distract you the most. So whether it is the sports match that you need to be watching every night at such and such a time, whether it is the anime series that you're binge watching, right? I had to give up One Piece. I left off episode 700 and something, and all know, I know it's not done. I'm gonna reach back yet either. Or for some of us scrolling on Instagram, TikTok. Snapchat isn't that addicting, I don't think so. But you get the point. Whatever those things are that take up the most of your time non-productively, that will distract you when you're to start the semester, try and find a way to, whether you're going to quit gradually or go cold turkey on September 1, you cut it out. So that's something I had to do every semester. Uninstall Instagram. Could reinstall it over the Christmas break, but once school starts, I know so it'll come off on my phone because I will doom scroll. Other things to develop is being able to discipline yourself well, to be able to establish a routine and say, okay, I'm going to do this thing from such and such a time. I'm going to make this use of my time. And I talk about this a little later again as well. If you can make a timetable for yourself and actually schedule breaks, schedule time to watch TV, if you watch TV, because a lot of us don't anyway. Schedule time to play the games and allow yourself to enjoy things outside of school, but then also practice having the discipline to say, okay, I've done this for 2 hours. Now I'm going back to the books. Now I'm going back to the exercise sheets, that sort of thing. So next step in preparation, getting some of the tools. So you need a good laptop. You can't do it without a laptop, not in university. You can try and use only the computers at school. It will be difficult. It will be very difficult. I've done it when my laptop was crosses. You're going to make it much harder for yourself. Tell your auntie, uncle overseas to send on the laptop. No, do not get a Chromebook. Get a decent laptop that can actually download software, that can do a bunch of different things. You're going to need it for all those assignments. You're going to need it for those Zoom meetings. You're going to need it for those study group meetings, things like that. Please don't get a Chromebook or one of them cheap laptops there. Get something decent. I also suggest that you learn how to touch type, because I can do that and it helps me a lot. And that's the thing that they taught us in EDPM, if you did that in CSEC. It's learning how to type without looking at the keys. There is a way to do it. Your fingers are supposed to touch particular keys. If you can learn that, just the basics of it, then as long as you're doing that and you practice it, you'll get faster. So like me now, I can type at about 100 words per minute. And if it's over like a period of an hour, I average about 80 words per minute. That's sustained. I think the average person probably typing between maybe 30 and 40 words per minute in our digital society, right? A secretary might reach like a 60. What that means is I complete assignments faster. I take notes faster in class, etc., etc. You're probably not going to get there, because I got this speed from having to do many hours of transcriptions when I used to do transcriptions as a side job. I did that through hundreds of hours. But if you can get faster at doing that, it helps. You can be looking at the slides while you're typing on your laptop. You don't have to look down. And just in general, the more you do it, the faster you get. And everything is online these days anyway. So learn how to use a computer then. Learn how to type with a little speed so that you don't spend as long doing those things. Next up, you need a good phone. You need the smartphone. Yeah, bangers can't work at university. You need to be in the WhatsApp groups. You need to be able to download the different apps that you're going to be using. And we'll talk about that right at the end here. I also recommend getting earphones, Bluetooth headphones if you can. But at least some headphones you can connect to whatever device you have so that you can listen to things in the library. You can watch some videos in the library, or what I used to do when I was on bio, way back in 2016, I would be in the bus and have to stand up in the JUTC bus in one corner. Nothing better to do. I'll pull out my phone. I'm going to just start listening to something. Or I'd read a lecture slide in the bus because I had slideshow software on my phone and I could download the slide, could open a PDF and skim through it. So like I'm half an hour late for class, but I'm reading through the slides for class. So when I reach, I'm up to speed on whatever they're talking about. You should consider getting a tablet. A lot of people do it and it helps them. I never had one. I was afraid I would break it and then I wouldn't get another one. But I think it helps a lot of people. So look into that. See if it works for you. You can try getting a tape recorder or you can just use your phone. And this, of course, is conditional on if your lecturers will allow you to record the classes that you're in. People don't like to be recorded without their permission. Just throwing that out there. So some useful websites and apps that you should be getting. One, Grammarly. Probably one of the biggest ones. Grammarly is this software that checks as you're typing for punctuation, spelling issues, grammar, all that stuff. And it even offers suggestions. on how to write in a different style. So professional, formal versus informal, that sort of thing. So as you're writing in Microsoft Word, as you're doing a thing in Google Docs, or even sending your emails, Grammarly will give you live feedback and you don't have to pay to get that feedback. So it's like a spell and grammar checker. You should get that. Purdue, all I think, has similar things, but it's more so for teaching a grammar, I think. You can check it out every now and then. I think it does citations as well. Anki is a huge one for the medical students. Anki is basically flashcard software. So you know the Quizlet and the others. But Anki has spaced repetition built into it. And I think they were one of the earliest ones that did that. We'll talk about that later on, but Anki is amazing for the spaced repetition and the active recall. Quizlet, similar thing, but Quizlet has many different ways of testing the knowledge. So you make your flashcards and you make your questions. Quizlet can do it as a quiz. You can do it as like multiple choice, fill in the blanks type things, click on the right answer, match. It makes it fun. You just have to put in the work, as with all things, to put the information in there. You might have even already used it in high school. Notion is a nice note-taking app. I've seen people make good use of it. Sci-Hub is for reading research articles that might be locked behind a paywall. Just look up Sci-Hub, drop them in there, you get it free. Project Gutenberg, LibGen, PDF Drive, all of those, that's where you find the textbooks online. Because when am I going to pay $20,000 for one textbook that I'm only going to use for one semester? Like what? Anyway, Habitica is another app that I personally use and I liked it. It's about gamifying your productivity. So you take the different tasks that you have to do, whether it's something like washing the dishes or the assignments that you have in school, and you make them into different tasks, and it gives you a character. You get rewards, you get points, you get mana, something like that. XP, you can level up, and you can also do it with your friends. You can be part of a group. You can have daily challenges. Turn all the stuff you need to do into a game. Have fun while you're doing it. WPS Office is another software I recommend because it's a lightweight version of Microsoft Office. So if you tried getting Office 365 before or similar, you know it takes up like 1 gigabyte per app. Crazy, you know, so much space. WPS Office is much smaller and you get the full suite. So you get the slideshows, you get the Excel sheets, you get the PDFs, you get the Google Docs and so on. Well, the Word documents. You're able to open all of them with WPS Office, and that's good for people when now the money turn up so for buy the phone with enough space. So here's some examples of using some of them. This is Anki. You should check out this video. It's from Med School Insiders on how to use Anki effectively. Here they're using the image occlusion enhanced, where you can just screenshot a picture and say you have a diagram and you need to remember all the parts of the diagram. You can create a mask over the different labels and turn each of those into flashcards. It will show your flashcard, hide one thing, and then you're supposed to try and remember what that thing is when you go through. Lots of other features there in Anki. On the right is an example of somebody using Habitica, and you see how it looks all nice and pretty. Yeah, man. Turn your to-dos into a game. There's some other apps that I like that too, but Habitica is the only one I've used mainly. So, where are we in our preparation? Now we need to learn how to learn. So, you have to go learn some studying techniques now. So when you get there, you can make use of all of them. The big three: active recall, spaced repetition, and the Pomodoro method. You can look them up for videos on how to do them more effectively. But active recall basically is trying to remember something from your brain, usually in response to a task, a question, etc. And it's as opposed to what we learned to do in high school, which is read the same thing 5 times until it sticks. No, you read it one time, and then you try and answer a question or something like that that requires you to draw the memory from your brain. And in doing that, you strengthen that memory. So as simple as when class is done and you're heading home on the bus, you try and remember, okay, what did I learn today in class? You go home and you tell your parents, so this is what I learned today. And that process of trying to remember those things strengthens the memories for you. Spaced repetition, related concept, but this time what you're trying to do is the things that you remember really well, you don't review them as often. And the things that you don't remember as well, you review them more often. Anki is amazing because it has this built into it. So you make the flashcards, based on whatever topic, and then it will have the questions that you've made, the pictures, the diagrams, the fill in the blanks, etc. You then try to remember out of your brain what the answer is, and then you flip over the flashcard, you see the answer, and depending on how well you remembered it, you can decide when next you want to say that card. So whether it's in 10 minutes from now, 1 day from now, 3 days, 7 days, the more you remember it, the longer it will take to show you that again. And the worse you remember it, it might show you again in 1 minute, 10 minutes, etc. Until you're able to remember that thing better. And it's really useful because Why are you studying over and over again the topic that's already the best topic? Focus on your weak points. That's built into it. Other thing that's lovely is the Pomodoro method. It just says to do work in 25 minutes intervals and take like a 5-minute break. That's the gist of it. You can modify it how you want. But your attention span lasts about so long and you get brain fatigue really easily. So try the Pomodoro method, it works. There's another one I think they call doing deep work. That also works for some people. I think they call it getting into a focus mode or the zone or flow state, something. And it's like you get into this state of mind where you're able to like super focus on your work and you can do like 4 hours one time. Some people do that and it works for them too, so you can check it out. I know Zandri, I think he said he does that. The big Mr. Mohan Singh. Other techniques that you might learn about, mnemonics. Not very fancy, but just ways to remember things. Mind maps. These were useful, especially in med school. Learn about that. Some people call it a mental movie. My grandfather taught me this, and he uses it to memorize like 1,000 random numbers, forwards and backwards. I kid you not, the man is 86, and he can remember all of those numbers off one piece of paper because he created a story with each one in his mind, and he just plays through the story, and he's able to remember the numbers. You can do the same thing with the things that you struggle with remembering in whatever course you're doing. Note-taking, Cornell method. I never did really use it, but it sounded cool. You can check it out on other study methods. Another thing that's great, again, for the med school people or anybody who has concepts that are difficult to understand or just heavy content load, understanding the idea of a schema. So a schema in psychology is basically the foundational knowledge that we have about something. And the idea is that our mind organizes information into these basic building blocks. So when you learn for the first time as a child what a dog is, you probably just learn that a dog is a 4-foot creature. That's it. And then as a child, you see a cat and you go, hey, that's a dog, because you see a 4-foot creature. Then your parents say, no, that's a cat. And you look at it and you realize, okay, the cat has whiskers, right? The dog does not have whiskers. And you might be able to look at that and say, okay, so here's some more information about it. But as you learn, you're able to either add information to your schema or disregard it. And how you're supposed to apply that to learning is you should start from the most basics, from the outside, most general, and then go into the specifics. So that's especially useful for learning a topic like anatomy. You should learn the general areas of the body, the head, the chest, torso, belly, legs, that sort of thing. Then you learn the bones, where the bones are. And then you go on to learn the muscles. Then you learn the nerves, the blood supply, the venous drainage, and so on. You don't jump straight into the lymphatic drainage from this part to the pectoralis, blah, blah, blah. No. You're going to get headaches. You're going to confuse yourself. Start broad and then get more specific. Again, using this in learning, when you get these topics sometimes that are very complex and hard to understand, before the lecture, before the class, you should try and get a little basic understanding of that topic before you go into class. So then you go in there with an idea of what they're going to talk about, and then the lecture comes now and fills in the details. They used to call it pre-reading when we were in med school. They say you should find a textbook on the topic, and if it's even just to read the title of that chapter so you know what big words they're going to be using, and then just skim through and read like all the words in bold, or read the first sentence and the last sentence. Different ways of doing it. The idea is just get a little idea of what it's about, so that when you're learning it now, it's easier to learn. Because there's a thing called cognitive fatigue, especially present in med school, where they're giving you a ton of information and it's too much to absorb in one go. Your brain actually gets tired like a muscle, and it gets exhausted from learning too much at once. So the more you can break down the information and organize it in your brain into the different schemas, things like that, the easier it is to learn and appreciate, easier it is to understand. Because you've probably never felt like you have a headache and your brain felt exhausted after sitting down an hour listening to somebody preach at church, but you sit down for 1 hour lecture on, the blood supply to this part of the body, and your head is tired, that sort of thing. I never experienced this in SciTech, to tell you the truth, because the content is just not that heavy. So more useful for the med people, but I think the principles are still generally applicable. Another thing, everybody's buzzing about AI. I'm so glad I grew up before these things, because I might have been tempted to abuse them. But I'm also sad because I never got the benefit of it in the way that persons can now. If you're going to be using these things, you have to use them with sense. A lot of people are using them with no sense, and it is deeply saddening. They are ruining their intellectual capabilities, and research is coming out to show it. People are literally getting dumber because of their over reliance on AI. But it's beautiful technology. It can make a lot of difference for you. So you need to use it for the right ways. So for example, you learn something in chemistry and you don't understand it. Ask AI to explain it to you like you're a 5-year-old. Explain it like I'm 5. Or what I learned I could do recently in medicine, I can ask it to simulate a patient based on a particular symptom and then bring that patient to me and let me try and figure out what diagnosis the patient has. That's beautiful. I can also study a topic and then just tell it, hey, come with some exam style questions on this topic. Give me some USMLE style questions. I don't know how valid the difficulty level is, but that alone is a way of getting active recall. I don't have to write my own questions. I don't have to find past papers, which I can't even get in medicine anyway. I literally just ask AI to make some questions for me and test me on the topic. If only I had that in school, man. I wouldn't cough out the way I did cough out, but you know. So it go. You guys have that opportunity, make use of it. Don't be using AI to write your essays for you. Write the essay and then ask it to grade it for you like a professor based on whatever mark scheme they give you and whatever the task for the assignment was, and then use that to improve. Use your brain. Don't make it take away your thinking power, but use it to do the manual labor, the basic tasks, the things that don't take a lot of brain power from you. Use it as a tool, not a replacement. And you can go great. Google Gemini's live voice feature is something I'm also using with that. I show 2 pictures of this here. So I gave it the prompt to make up a simulated patient scenario, and it starts presenting how this patient would come in, bad pain in them stomach, upper right side of the abdomen, sharp cramping. Then I click that live voice feature and boom, I can talk to it live and it will talk back to me live. Amazing feature. The sad part is Gemini is kind of crap. No lie. I get so frustrated with it because after a while the information gets redundant and it doesn't get very creative. ChatGPT is better. DeepSeek is even better than ChatGPT. But unfortunately, I haven't seen the live chat feature in either of them, so I have to just text it and we text and read and got you. But the live talk is so useful. I'll be driving in my car and I'm talking to it. I'm ironing and I'm talking and I'm getting feedback, and it's amazing. It's amazing. So we're still on the topic of preparation. We've talked about knowing yourself. We've talked about getting the right tools. We've talked about learning study techniques. So we talked about physical tools and then mental tools. Now we're talking about knowing the course. So know your enemy. What do you have coming up front that you need to face? Again, the best time for this is right now in summer. So find out what courses you're going to be doing in first year. So say if you do a chemistry degree, you're going to be doing level 1 chemistry. You're going to need to do math up to the level 1 level. And you'll probably need to pick another course to make up your credits. I think in SciTech you have to do at least 18 credits. There's some credits requirements. So you'll probably have to do at least 3 different courses to make up that requirement, right? So you figure out which courses you're going to be doing and you find out what major topics those things are going to have. Look up the course outline. It's literally online. Or you check the faculty manual. It's also in the faculty manual, SciTech, Social, Humanities, whichever. And they give you an outline of what the different topics will cover. Further to that, just ask somebody who's doing it already. So you must have one friend, we have a cousin, whether they're UE or UTech or NCU, can get the syllabus for you, can get the topic list for you. And you use that to know exactly what you're going to be covering. And then further to our previous point, if you look on the topic and you say, dang, something to do with, fractions. Or let's say long division, that fancy way of long division, whatever them call it. Or something in titration. You see it, this law in physics. You go and you try and do a little learning about it. Brush up on that topic so that when you're seeing it now, it's not that hard. And AI can help you. Side note, remember that these AIs that we're using, they're large language models. They are not intelligent. They're just predictive devices. They predict what's the most likely response that you want to hear, and they answer based on that. And when you get that, you'll realize it's not a human being you're talking to. They're not actually smart. They're just really good at pattern recognition. But it's not the kind of AI that people often think it is, the all-knowing everything. No, So be mindful of that and double check anything you get from it because it will tell you foolishness, bare face. Anyway, similar thing, get advice from people who did the course before. A lot of the things I'm telling you, I kind of figured out later in my university life. And I look back and I'm like, dang, I should have done this, So you go. But this is one thing I always did consistently. Before every semester, at the start of everything, I would find people who did the courses before, whether they were a year above me, whether they graduated already, etc. I would get information from them. Even if I don't get the lecture slides and the past papers and the tutorials with the answers in them, I would at least find out which course is the hardest course, which one have the labs that did a kill off everybody, which lecturer is the best lecturer for this particular stream. Because UA courses come in different streams, so they're offered at different times with different lectures for the different times so that it can fit into your schedule. So math might have 2 or 3 streams, chemistry will have a morning stream, an evening stream, etc. But the morning stream might have the good lecture, and the evening stream, which is more convenient, have the bad lecture we can't teach. So find out about that, Here's an example of the SciTech handbook. Can you zoom in well on this? Yeah. And it goes through in very broad detail what introductory chemistry, that's level 1 chemistry, has. Some of the things I'm telling you guys are going to be outdated because I did some of these courses in SciTech all of 8 years ago, right? 2016, 2017. But the general principles should be the same. So you have to double check some of the things and make sure like the course code still matches. I can share in the description a compilation I have of resources from the different courses I've done or encountered at UE. I'll put that in the description, but bear in mind, most of the stuff is from about 2016 to 2018, so it's old by now. It's ancient, 7 years old. Things have changed. So I included this degree scale of difficulty just to help persons gauge, okay, how seriously should I be taking this guy? Like, he's saying all of these things, and I'm just like, is it that hard? Do I need to be doing this? The truth is, if you're in medicine, absolutely yes. Because there simply isn't enough time to cover the volume of material that you have. The brilliant people find a way to do it. The people who have the photographic memory, Sheldon says it's an eidetic memory, right? They got that going. They're sculling class and reading off the textbook by themselves. Big up themselves. The rest of us, we need to be doing all this and more in order to keep up because the system is already stacked against us. There is not enough time in the semester to cover that content. So that's medicine, right? Super, super high volume of content. It's actually not that hard to understand. It's not very complex or complicated. One of my lecturers said, anybody can do medicine, you just need to read. And he's not wrong. He's not wrong. It doesn't actually take that much to understand the concepts in medicine. But there's just so many of them. On the other end of the spectrum, there is the degrees in soci, humanities. I'm going to throw sports in there, although I've never done a sports course, but I just figured they're kind of around there. It doesn't have that much content. It probably has the least amount of content relative to other faculties. And similar thing is found with the complexity of it. So I've done a couple courses in soci and humanities, and I've seen it consistently. Like, I barely paid as much effort and attention to the courses I did there compared to others, and I think I got A's in like every course I did, basically. Accounts, econ, Spanish. I was supposed to do management, but I couldn't bother. Yeah. And also soci courses or the degrees itself require less credits. So you need a minimum of 18 credits per semester, I think, for SciTech. You can go up to 21. I think soci, you need 15 credits or you need 12, something like that. And you have to get Dean's approval to like override to allow yourself to do more than 18 credits, something like that. So you're literally required to do less credit hours, less classes. So you'll often find a person going to soci can arrange your timetable so they have class 3 times a week. And 2 days they have completely free, do whatever they want to do. You also find a lot of persons in soci who are able to work in the day and go to school part-time because they're very flexible and accommodating with the evening classes. It's not as flexible in SciTech, although people still go part-time. Yeah. Medicine, not at all. You have class every day from 8 to 4, Monday to Friday. You have a minimum of 4 to 6 classes per day, every day, up until the last 2 or 3 weeks of the semester. Easily covering 100, 200 lectures per semester. And it increases as they go up each semester. So that's not medicine. That's on the opposite end of the spectrum. So if you're in soci and you're hearing all this, You can probably just pick out one and two principles and, just be diligent. Try to keep up with the classes. You'll be fine. The A is not that hard. Comparatively speaking, everybody has their own level of difficulty. But as somebody who has been through most of the faculties, social is the easiest one. If you're struggling with it, well, maybe you do need to do some extra stuff. But all the things we are talking about, it's probably not that serious for you. You can get away with an A with doing a lot less. Law now, I put law somewhere in the middle. So it has more content than your SOSI. Sometimes more content than SciTech too. More than most of the SciTech courses. So it's a lot of reading. And it's a little more complex than the econ that you're learning about, than the psychology that you're learning about, for example. The business and so on. A bit more complex and having to learn to think like a lawyer. Not as complex as SciTech courses, not as much content as medicine, but it certainly has more. Yeah. You see why I put medicine as 6, is that 6 pluses in the content? Yeah, it's a ton. Maybe law should get 3 for the content and 2 for the complexity. Anyway, that's subjective. And then SciTech is there right after law in terms of complexity. So especially the more math-based courses in SciTech, them hard. We had the course and the course have a 70% fail rate. What? You're doing calculus 1 and it airs to like 25% of the class pass. And most of those who pass with a C. That SciTech almost prided itself in my day in having a high failure rate, especially compared to persons in social. There's even like comparisons. There's like, that meme with the people looking down proudly on the other people? Yeah. That's SciTech people sometimes. We're out here bragging about how high our failure rate is. Meanwhile, we feel awful with course them and the man over social pass all of them high. But there's some sense of superiority in knowing that the degree is harder, the courses are harder. And I just mentioned here like biochem, microbe. Not as complex and complicated, except for 1 and 2 courses like a molecular biology, but it has a lot more content. It's similar to medicine in the content number. And medicine has all of those things in it anyway. The chemistry, the physics, the math, the comp sci, that's where the concepts get more complicated and the failure rate goes up. Yeah. So that should just give you an idea. Depending on what you're doing, you will know how much of this do you need to be applying, like how serious do you need to take this. Yeah. So step 3, we've done our preparation. School has now begun. If school did start already when you watch this, so you go. You have to go try to catch up on the job. You never get to hit the ground running. You have to go figure it out as you're going along, as you're trying to get your A's, yeah? So some basic things to do. Go to orientation. I miss orientation so many times. Pay attention. Just learn where things are, learn how things work, who your advisors are, who to go to faculty for this, that, dean this, approve that. So much time is spent in those early days and weeks just trying to figure out how stuff works until you get used to it. Yeah, so go to orientation. Find out the classes that you have, where they are. Man, every day for the first 3 weeks, somebody is asking you, where do I find SLT2? Where do I find IFLT? Stuff like that. I already talked about lecture streams. You should, once you found out where your classes are, make a study timetable. So you put all your classes into that, and then you put in the times where you want to be doing your studying, whether it is going to be from 4 to 8 p.m. when you're reaching home, 12 to 2 when you have the little lunch break, etc., etc. And you can, of course, schedule other times to have your downtime, the time for watch your anime, for play your game, for talk to your friend, etc., or even to do chores at home, because that often takes up a lot of our time. While you're there at orientation, find other people who are doing the same thing you're trying to do, especially the people that might try to get the A's, you see it, I want to get the scholarships. Yeah. Make or join a class group chat. Get connected. So much people find out like in the last few weeks of school that there was a class group chat and that past paper did send in night, information about the test did send in night, which topics to prepare for did send in night, and they just weren't there. Find out. Either make one or join one. And in conjunction with that, you can probably get the copies of the textbooks that you need already, because somebody have it, somebody have a PDF somewhere. Yeah, I never bought any textbooks in university, and you probably don't have to either. Still on step 3, we're in school, time to go to class, make the most of your classes. So we talked about coming with your schema, your mental idea of what this topic is about. You have the bare bones so that the lecturer can put on the flesh, the meat for you. Don't come to class expecting the lecturer to put everything in it for you because that's going to make your head hurt. This is specific to medicine. Other classes, you can kind of come and just make them figure it out. Some of the things they cited were them hard for understand. So you need like a basic idea first and then you try to figure it out in class. They can be hard, not lie. So go to classes well rested. I don't believe in all-nighters. Again, I'm privileged in saying that, but I think they only make you worse. You function your best when you're well rested. So find out if you need 6, 7, or 8 hours of sleep and get it consistently every night. Eat some food. Don't go to class hungry and tired. And that's why you're struggling to understand the concepts, right? I remember being in class and I would be eating, sitting at the front of the lecture theatre. I remember I'd walk in my lunch kit and Dr. Stevenson, big up herself, would ask me, hey, you got any dead bodies in there? Because when I have on the bush jacket, I'm of the lunch kit, and people would wonder what I'm keeping in the lunch kit. It was food. I had to eat my food. I need food to power my brain so I can understand the concepts that they tell me about. Don't drink, like at all, ever. Alcohol is a neurotoxin. Our society needs to get to the place where we frown on it, like how we frown on smoking. Until then, yeah, don't drink. And don't go to classes drunk or hungover. Yeah. You need to go to like every class. So I recommend going to all of your classes because you can always just miss information, and also you paid for it. Like, why you gonna pay for the degree and then just go and go teach yourself anyway? At least make the lecturer do something. You still have to teach yourself at the end, but let them do something. Other persons may disagree and they may find that it's a waste of their time to go to class because they can learn things better on their own. I see this a lot in medicine. Some persons say it with other classes too. They'll just read the slides. It's a bit harder to do inside it because you're probably not going to understand the concepts on your own. But if you are going to skip class, don't skip it to do foolishness. Actually, skip it to go study and be productive, right? If you're going to be the skipping class person. Another thing that I started doing in bio in first year, I think. So level 1 courses would have been my second year in university. Get the past papers, right? Start them from early as you can. Get the past papers, look at the past paper questions related to the topics that are coming up. So you have a class tomorrow on such and such a topic. You get the tomato questions, so past paper questions on that theme. And then you try to see if you can answer them beforehand. And then when you go to class now, if you don't already have the answer, you listen in the lecture to see if you get an answer to that question. If you don't get the answer, ask it. Inside the lectures are much more open with past papers. The past papers are literally uploaded to UWE link. You can go on there and get them. Or the lecturer might give it to you in paper, in person. They might hold up a past paper and put up a question on the board for you to answer, stuff like that. It's available. Medicine, no, because they know on doctors for swat and turn doctor and kill off people. I guess that's the idea. Kind of dumb, but anyway. Not getting into that. So, you don't have to hide that you're asking past paper questions in most faculties because they just provide them anyway. You can just be like, hey, sir, I have a question on this. I'm like, Dr. such and such, yeah. And you try to get your question answered, and you're learning how to answer exam questions with the feedback of the lecturer right there. If you can do that consistently, that's amazing, because, again, something I say later on, try to like the last 5 years worth of past papers, so you know exactly how the questions they're going to ask you will come, and you're getting prepared for the final exam from day one, from week one. And then you don't have to sit on a bus your brain in the study group trying to figure out how to answer this question. You have the lecturer right in front of you, can guide you towards that. Learn to take notes efficiently. You should have learned this in the preparation stuff. You're not going to sit down and write every single word that the lecturer says. Unless the lecturer is the Dr. Kirk Richard Morgan, big up himself, the man who said maths is stronger than Obeah. In which case, he will tell you to write exactly what I say. And then when he says to stop writing and listen, you stop writing and you listen. Apart from that, keywords, key points, the things that you put in bold. If the information is in the slides, don't focus so much on getting their information. Try to understand the concepts and then just write down the key things that will help you remember it. Like, think of it as you're going to do a PowerPoint presentation and you just need keywords to cue you into what to speak. So you put those keywords down in your notes, and then when you look back over those notes later, you try and draw back out of your brain those things that they would have spoken about. That helps your active recall as well. It's more efficient in taking notes, and you'll have better long-term retention. There are studies to show this. Another thing to do, so I came from a private school background, so I had no issue whatsoever asking questions because a little bit away in the class. The teacher belongs to us, plus we are paying enough money. In university, I find a lot of persons are shy and don't want to ask questions because they're afraid that they look wrong, that they look dumb, etc. Listen, at $300,000 for the tuition, no? $330,000. If you're going to law, it's 10,000 US a year. Nursing, 5,000 US a year. Medicine, 28,000 US dollars a year. 4 million. What you mean, boy? You're shy. You're paying these people's salaries not to be entitled, but make the most of your education. Make the most of your parents' money or your own money if you're working and going to school, right? Ask those questions. Ask until you get clarity. I'm not telling you to disrupt the class for 15 minutes. If you find after a little while it does not get the clarity, you come into the lecture after class and you come talk to them, or you go to their office hours and you try to get the clarity from them. But ask questions. Don't be afraid to ask questions. So much times in math class, none of we don't understand what I'm going. And the lecturer will be like, any questions? Nobody's going to raise their hand. You know who raised their hand? Me. And that's why I got to know so many people when I was in SciTech. I would always ask questions because I never grew up with a culture of being afraid to ask questions. So people think, oh, he might ask questions. Him bright. Me I try ask questions to get more knowledge. Come on, want be bright. But anyway, people would come to me and think, yeah man, that you the bright. We're come talk to him. Him smart. Him have the answer. So I would ask the questions in class so the lecturer can explain it to me. And then people would come to me one side afterwards for me to tell them. And that would also strengthen my retention of the information, because in having to explain it to other people, I have to process and remember the information and I'd understand it better. So ask those questions. Don't be shy. Ask away. Here's an example of taking a past paper. This is probably a bio. This looks like cell bio, where you used to have them ancient past papers of 2011, and you go through and you start trying to answer the questions and you listen in the lecture for what the answer to those questions are. Past papers can save your life. Why? One, the questions might repeat. Great. Even if they don't repeat, the concepts must repeat, because the lecturer is teaching you particular topics. I need to be tested on some subsection of those topics. You might have 10 topics and 5 of them come on the exam. But some topics must come on the exam. 2, it teaches you how the questions will be structured so you can know how to answer them, especially true for medicine. The question, they come hard, brother. Because they know it's just memorizing stuff, they try to find all sorts of tricky ways to ask you the questions. Others, like mathematics, they come with some mathematics and chemistry. They come with some creative examples, and you have to take the theoretical thing and then learn how to apply the real world solution to it. So you need to learn how to visualize it, create a model based on the scenario that they're describing, the maximizing the area of this thing, the max and min problems. Yeah, those got very creative. The farmer and him pen, the kite thing there, all sorts of things. Optimization problems. Yeah. So you learn how they ask those questions, and you get into the habit of being able to think about it and answer it in that way. Other than it show up on the exam and you think you know it, because you read the books, you got through the lectures, you understood everything, and then the question asks something a roundabout way and you're just stunned. So they help you in exam preparation as well. And you might even find some of the questions you can answer without even knowing the topics, because you can just reason it out. You can Google it too. So that's past papers. So step 3, still on step 3. So class has ended. It's a typical day. You're done your first class, or you're done your first 3 or 4 classes. It's lunchtime. What are you doing? I'm going to prepare for the next class. You have more classes, right? Oh, sorry, not everybody's in medicine. You don't always have more classes. But you can prepare for the next lab. You have your chemistry lab for 5 hours or your bio lab for 4 hours. You get together with your study group and your friend and you prepare for bio. I know that in bio they had some of us found a textbook, and that textbook was what they used to get like the slides for plant bio. So the images that they would give us to draw and so on in the labs, it would come from that textbook. So we could actually, before we even see the specimen, we could draw those diagrams from the textbook, come with it pre-prepared, and when we show up on the lab, we just show it to the demonstrators, make them mark it, and we leave. When we did it really well, we could leave those 4-hour bio labs in like 30 minutes, because we did the bulk of the work ahead of time. Chemistry labs, a similar thing. Chemistry labs, everything is described for you already there in the lab. They started coming up with this pre-test thing where you have questions you're supposed to answer before the lab to show that you're understanding the topics we're going to talk about in that laboratory session. Answer them from beforehand. Ask some questions with your friends. Google it. Ask Gemini. Don't ask Gemini. Ask DeepSeek. Get some clarity on it. Because enough always sitting on chemistry lab, bust your brain. And poor Marcel, I think he's still there as a demonstrator. frustrate the young man, asking him questions that make him wonder why I'm still have this job. Maybe that's why some are afraid to ask questions. But yeah, try and prepare. Also eat. Don't forget to eat food. For me, after I went through SciTech, and by the time I'm in medicine, I had to do a lot of multitasking. I even did this in SciTech too. So I'm eating my food and I'm with my friends and we're writing or preparing for the next lab session. Or the tutorial we have at 2 o'clock. Half an hour before the tutorial, we're just now answering the questions sometimes. Other times we get better, we answer the tutorial all 1 week in advance, stuff like that. But the more you can do in advance, the more you can prepare, revise, etc. And yeah, you can really keep on top of things. I said study group part already. Yeah. If you're not doing that preparation for the next class stuff, you can test yourself on whatever you just learned. If your course is broad enough that you can find applicable online quizzes, you can do that. You can ask AI to make your own quizzes. You can find some questions in the back of your textbook or in the end of chapter sections at the particular textbook that you have. You look up some exercise sets, problem papers, all that jazz. Try and stimulate your active recall. When you're done with the classes for the day, you have a choice to make. You have a library or study room over Taylor Hall, go study, or you go in your yard. Don't loiter doing nothing. Have some purpose, have something to do. Why? You're in the A student mentality, right? You're here to focus, you have a purpose. You're not here to find a man or a woman. Disclaimer. That's the woman that I found at university laughing in the background. Yeah. If it happened by book ups, cool. Bless the Lord. Amen. But come with a purpose, come with a focus, and maybe you find somebody who's just as focused as you. Also, persons get distracted in university. So when you're done class, go your yard. You have things to do. You have things to prepare for, or at least go decompress, and then go prepare for the other stuff. I talked about the study group part already. Get a topic list. I don't think I started doing this until medicine, but I think it's useful otherwise. What you do is you look at all the classes you have for the semester and you make a list of those topics, put it in a nice Excel sheet, color code it, and then you fill that out with time as you're studying and covering those topics. It helps with the spaced repetition too, because you can have a system of marking how well you remember that topic or how strongly you're doing in it. I have a picture of this like here. So this is from mostly year 1, semester 2 in medicine. Okay, because this look like some neuroscience stuff. Neuroscience? No, that's respiratory. Anyway, so we had 40 lectures in HCC and 41 lectures in respiratory system. You see when I tell us medicine different? They have like 10 lectures for the semester in econ. Listen, I have 40 for one course. Sometimes 60, sometimes 71. You have 6, 7, 8 courses. Anyway, so the system I had developed, do I have another picture? No. I did red for classes that I missed because I was late for a lot of classes or I fell asleep in class. Orange for classes that I just attended and paid attention in the class. Green for those I did some amount of revision on. The colors of the rainbow. And blue if I'd like answered past paper questions on it. So I did it from basically know nothing about the class up to I can answer exam questions on this topic. And that was my way of tracking my progress. And you can even do a little thing. You can make it cool and motivating for yourself. I did like a percentage thing with Excel. Where I put like ones and zeros beside the topics that I've covered and I'm ready for. And it would do like a percentage. Okay, I'm 30% through the semester, 60% through the semester, etc. Find ways to make it visually appealing and cool for yourself. So we're on to step 4. Managing your academics and the social life, the regular life, all the other things. I said it before, avoid the drama. So much people come to university to get STIs. I'm not joking. Ask Carrie Jane. It's rampant on campus. Don't be a part of it. You have things to do with your life. Again, if you're in medicine, this is your life now. When you get the degree offer, there's something in the fine print that says blah, 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 blah for the next 5 years. You are signing away your life. Those people have your life now. You can say goodbye to life as you knew it before. This is your life now. People's lives are going to be in your hand. And so in return, you're giving your life over to the faculty. They set your timetable for you. You don't choose your classes. And medicine is your life now. For 5 years until you're done the program. You don't have time for that other stuff. You can have a little social life, a little extracurricular activity, like one. That's about it. You don't have time for all that other stuff. Don't get caught up in the drama. Also, there's a thing where I know some people who live on dorm, on hall, they require them to participate in the hall activities. Um, Otherwise, they won't invite you back on hall next year. So first year you're fine. Second year they won't invite you back. That's all right. Find a different hall next year. That's okay. Because sometimes it can really clash with your studying, especially for those in medicine. You come here to get the degree. Worse, you're trying to get more than just a C. It can be very time consuming, and you don't always have the time to go to the cheerleading event with this and that and participate in this other thing. If them begs with you, just so I go. I mean, big up Taylor Hall, the great original hall of halls, but you have to have priorities and focus. And you have to realize that you're going to be here at university for 3, 4, 5 years. What's going to matter at the end of that time? If you did fail out first year, or, if you're really active in this thing. It's not saying you should have no social life, unless you're in medicine. In which case, yeah, you might not have any social life. I don't know how my classmates did it. But anyway, them bread still. But you have to pick and choose your battles and choose your priorities well. Find friends who are motivated to excel, for sure. So my posse, my group of people, my cohort, majority of we in Cytec at the time wanted to transfer to medicine. After the first semester, and many of us saw our first Fs, like ever, we gave up on that dream. But the one that we left behind, yeah, we would study together, we would do assignments together, past paper sessions together, because we all wanted to succeed. And we never had this competitive mindset where it's like, hoard things to myself, don't share things with anybody because I believe, if they do really well, then they're going to take my spot in the program. Nah, they have enough space for everybody. It's so hard to get in anyway. Help somebody and they might just help you along. Yeah. Plus, medicine's not even that hard to get into. It's getting the subsidy that's the problem, which I talk about in another video, which is on my channel, how to get a sponsored position in MBBS. So we had a great vibe going. We really would help each other, and I still have the Google Drive that I'm going to share in the group in the comments, just with many of the different things that we did. It's ancient now, and you can try and find more updated stuff, but you can just see what was made in our time. Yeah. So I recommend taking a break. I am a Seventh-day Adventist. Big up the Sabbath that God made from creation. So that means that once a week, every week, from sunset Friday to sunset Saturday, I did no studying. I did no classes. I went to no marathons, no study sessions. And you know what? I still made honor society. I still passed, scraped through medical school. Still became a doctor somehow. The Lord knows. And I have other Adventist colleagues, many of them, because I feel like 10% of the population is Adventist in Jamaica anyway, who not only survived but thrived, all without studying that one day of the week. So the break is important. It helps to decompress. God knew what he was doing when he told us to do it. You might not be Adventist watching this, but you could do it with a study break. Studying 7 days a week can mash up your brain. You can go mad. Oh yeah, Cytec has a reputation for making people go mad. So try not to go mad. Yeah, that's all I can tell you about that. So advice that Miss Goldberg told us: sleep when you're tired. Let's go sleep. Because you're not going to remember the stuff that well anyway, and you need sleep to cement memories and to freshen up your brain for the next day to receive new memories. But if you have insomnia and you can't drop asleep, don't just go doom scroll for 2 hours. Go study. And then when you start feeling tired now and you feel like you're going to drop asleep, then sleep. It's really simple. And sometimes we forget this. Just like eat when you're hungry. We forget that sometimes. Sleep when you're tired. When you can't sleep, go study. Diet and exercise are also great helps. So I'm not telling you to go vegetarian like myself, but you can't live on junk food every day. It's especially expensive. And a balanced diet can give you the nutrition that you need to succeed academically as well. You need the protein, you need the carbs, you need the various nutrients, vitamins and minerals. If you want to get a supplement, you can. But yeah, you can't eat junk every day. Don't do it. I mean, you can, as my wife is saying in the background, but it's not the ideal for you. Exercise is also another great tool for study. I barely did it in university, but the times when I did, I found the things that they say about it. So it gets off some stress, help you cool your brain, and it even helped doing exercising in between study sessions and makes you better able to go into the next one. Look it up. There's studies about these things. Not just make it up. For extracurricular activities, big up ADFEL, the one Advent Fellowship, the great Advent Fellowship. This is us at Blue Mountain Hike. I am in this picture somewhere over there in like 3 coats. ADFEL has a ton of outreach activities, social activities. The calendar full with different things that ADFEL do, from potluck here, hike there, church visit, singspiration, tertiary retreat, a bag of things. So if you want to find your one club for join, if a medicine, you can only manage one club, you can join ADFEL. They meet up on Friday nights. And here we go. We're heading down to the last stages. I think this is the last step, Yeah, this is the last step. Keep the momentum. So a lot of us, we start something great and it's working, and then we just kind of get distracted and we stop doing it week 3, week 4. When you have a good system, keep at it. Keep up the momentum. So for medicine again, when I was in medicine, I found that 4 hours per day was really the most I could give towards studying. So I reach a class late. Class is from 8 to 4. You have a 2-hour lunch break from 12 to 2. So you have 2 hours there, and I could maybe squeeze in a solid hour of study time in there. Class done 4 o'clock. Might leave you by like 4:30 if I go home, or if I leave right at 4 o'clock. It took me an hour and a half to 2 hours to reach home. And then I go to sleep at 10 o'clock so I can wake up back at 6 o'clock, right? Or a little early so I can have the nice worship time in the morning, devotional time. That means if I go home and reach home for 6 o'clock, if I'm early enough, an hour worth of chores, showering, changing my clothes, tidying the room, decompressing my brain, taking a break, playing a little game here, I watch a one video, only leaves me with 3 hours left to do any studying. I just had 6 hours of classes, and I can only fit into my day 4 hours of studying. I think that's like the bare minimum. You shouldn't go any lower than that. For other people, again, you'll have like entire days where you have no classes, so you can adjust and adapt according to your needs. But for us who had a million topics to cover, I think you need at least 4 hours. And even with the 4 hours, you're still behind. So you go. Alright, hold on. Yeah. So, as I said, make use of your lunch times. Again, I'd be in the bus, and may I stand up in the JUTC bus with my good old Samsung S3 Mini 2016. One on a hold on the railing, the other on a swipe through the bio slides. That was me. That's what I had to do to make up. I think I started school 3 weeks late because I was supposed to start 6th form and there was a bag of issues. And by book ups, I end up over you instead doing prelim and not doing CAPE. So I started 3 weeks late. After my first week, I had an in-course test and I failed the whole of them. So I really had to catch up. And this is one of the ways I was able to do it, by making use of all the time I had. I said things like you can be ironing, and as you're ironing, you're listening to a video, you're listening to a lecture recording, you're listening to something explaining something, or you figure out the AI DeepSeek thing, you're talking back and forth with this thing, or you're on a Zoom call with your study group, and each of you picked a topic and you're presenting to each other a summarized version for 10-15 minutes. You're talking or you're listening, stuff like that. Yeah. You're talking to your teddy bear. So you don't have nobody to talk to, your parents now listen to you. You come home, all right, Mr. So-and-so, this is what I learned in school today, and I learned that the magnetism of blah, blah, blah does this, and the economies of scale do this, and esto es un muy buen día y estamos listos para aprender y comprender todas las cosas que hemos sido. That's bad Spanish, but anyway. Yeah. There are different ways to apply the active recall, the spaced repetition, and so on. The key thing to be doing through all of this, if you remember nothing else, apply your knowledge. This is a great failure, again, of medicine, which I talk a lot about, because the curriculum isn't structured to have a lot of application of the concepts that we're learning. They just teach you a ton of concepts and expect you to just somehow revise and remember it in time for exams. When you're in SciTech, you have exercise set, problem papers, tutorials, quizzes, in-course tests twice for the semester, different assignments that help you to cement the concepts. When we're there, we feel like it's annoying, but we don't realize that's what's helping us to learn and apply those concepts. and it's stimulating our active recall, which again strengthens the memory and the retention. There are studies to show how much active recall helps with these things. Use up the space repetition as well. Don't just sit down and reread lecture 1 5 times. Focus on the stuff that's giving you trouble. I already talked about starting past papers from early. So in my next thing, I showed how I did this for the math courses. That's why I did so well in math. So I remember this is calculus 1. Before I did calculus 1, people were telling me how there was like a 75% fail rate. And this is crazy teacher, Sam McDaniel, who sets these wicked questions from outer space and nobody can understand it, and even the brightest people are failing calculus. And I was like, okay, game on, sounds like a challenge. And so I came and I got all the past papers, etc., etc., and I just sat down and went through them. I got help, I had friends, I had advice, I got to the lecture sometimes, I Google it, etc. And this is just one screenshot. I went through every past paper I could find, every in-course test, every whatever them something here be. This is me doing a similar thing with formal maths, because formal maths was also hard. And that's how I was able to get my A in Calculus 1. One of the hardest courses I've done at university. And it wasn't even that hard, you know. It's just Sam teach it, make it feel that hard because of his weird way of doing things. Big up Sam still. I think he really helped my mathematical development. I understood certain things better because of Sam. Sam balling down the place saying x over x is not 1. Because you need to write the comma, provided that x is not 0. Yeah. So these things I'm telling you, I actually did it, and I did it especially for mathematics, and those are the courses where I got my A pluses. I think I got the A plus in formal maths, and I got the A plus in what other course I did name? 1151, whatever that name. Yeah. So keep up the momentum. Try to look up pre-reading. Listen, you don't need to read half an hour on the topic. I found this especially useful for medicine. Somebody on YouTube have a 5-minute video upon the topic. You watch that and you have a nice schema for the whole lecture. And the lecture becomes so much easier to understand with one 5-minute video. In fact, by the time we were revising for MBBS, my wife was just reminding me, we'd even read textbook again. We just found YouTube videos explaining the different topics. We'll make some playlists with like 200 ad video on all the different systems, etc. Rinse and repeat that. And we're able to answer the past paper questions. And the final exam questions. Because the videos were so useful, and you know, if there was something else you had trouble explaining, you Google it, you look it up, you amboss, you whatever. Yeah. So don't sleep on the videos, man. That Indian man from YouTube whose accent you can't understand, he's got it golden. And it doesn't take a lot. If you want to use a textbook, as I said, you read the name of the chapter, you find out what the topic is, read the very basics of what it's about, and now you have AI to break it down for you and simplify it. Listen, everybody's supposed to get A plus now in this era of artificial intelligence. Like, if they'd have them somewhere back in my time, yeah. Feynman method is one of the study methods that you could have learned, and it basically says that you don't really understand a topic unless you can explain it to somebody else so that they can understand it. I think them claims say Einstein did say if you can't explain to a child, then you don't really understand the topic either. So I benefited from this a lot in SciTech, where as I said, I asked enough questions and people think me did bright, so they would come to me for me to explain things to them. And even though I was a prof, and I oftentimes wasn't actively studying, because I would have to pull up the lecture slide on my phone, read the thing that they're asking me about, and then interpret it and explain it to them, that strengthened the knowledge for me. Same thing with assignments, tutorials, etc. And basically helping other people was my studying. And everybody wins. Alright, so we're at the end of this video. There is a part 2 coming up, and what I'm gonna focus on in part 2 is just some of the specific concepts that you should learn for the various courses to make it easier. So the mathematics, the chemistry especially, that's probably, I think you'll find with comp sci and bio and something. Medicine I can mention 1 or 2 things. But yeah, so that part 2 will deal with some of those things. So if you're looking to do those courses later, you know that you need to address these foundational areas so that you don't flop when you go there. The trig and the laws of indices and etc. It'll lick you for 6 if you don't already have a good grasp of it from beforehand. Thank you guys for listening. Big up my cousin who should be watching this. I look forward to seeing you in the Dean's ceremony. And listen, we always say, shoot for the stars. If you don't reach the stars, at least you drop amongst the moon. Yeah. If you can't get the A plus, you must at least get the A, right? Oh, also shoot for the moon and you drop amongst the stars. Yeah, you heard the lady. All right, we're gonna end it right. Okay, which part of the button there? Well, it's stuck.